Alrighty. Welcome to Tempo Community Call. May 2023 edition. It's almost summer. Well, for the Northern Hemisphere, I suppose. Maybe almost winter for some of you. Today, we got a somewhat short agenda. We're going to talk about real quick about 2.1.1, which came out shortly after 2.1 and fixed a pretty critical bug. So I'd recommend being on 1.1 if you can, 2.1.1. The tempo operators recently moved, and I see we have one of the maintainers here of the operator if they want to say anything, but we've moved it just in the past couple of weeks. And talk about some of the work that our team is going to be focusing on this quarter. So that we can, let's talk about that a little bit, I guess. Cool. And I think I might be volunteered to do everything. Is anybody on the Grafana side want to volunteer to do any of this? Or is it all me today? Is it the Joe show?
It might be the Joe show.
You do such a good job. We would hate to deny you that opportunity.
I don't. Not at all. All right. I can handle it if that's the way it's going to be. Thanks, Cedric. Cool. So 2.1.1 came out. Let's get a link in there. Can somebody throw a link in that doc to the 2.1.1 release notes so I don't have to? But 2.1.1 is one commit after 2.1. Somebody in the community noticed an issue where occasionally tempo at storage time would flip a Boolean value from false to true. We tracked this down to our our upstream dependency, the Parquet dependency. So it was writing like these. It was using the Parquet Go library we use uses a lot of buffers for obvious reasons. So it doesn't constantly allocate memory, and it was not correctly overwriting the buffer when it kind of got a new vector of Booleans to write to the backend. So we discovered that. We tracked that down and fixed it upstream, got it into tempo, and then got it in 2.1.1. So heavily recommend you use that, especially if you have any Boolean attributes on your spans, because otherwise they might get flipped sometimes from false to true. The operator, in other news, was also moved to Grafana. Thank you to Red Hat, as well as the various maintainers there. Andreas, is that how you pronounce your name? Andreas?
Yep.
Cool. And Pavel, both have worked on this quite a bit and donated it over to Grafana. We appreciate that, and we'll remain maintainers on it. Anything to say about that, Andreas? Anything to do with that, or are we good there?
Nothing particular. So I hope next week I would get time to start working on a blog post, which hopefully can introduce the tempo operator to a wider community. And it would be awesome if we can publish it on the Grafana blog, maybe.
Yeah, I think we can. We'll talk to the blog people, but they're always excited about, something about one of our products, of course. So yeah, tempo operator, we'll get that on the blog. Honestly, where was I? Somewhere on Reddit, and it was just a thread about tracing and tempo. Oh no, it was on Hacker News, but they were talking about how difficult it could be to deploy some of these databases when you don't have a lot of experience developing them. And somebody mentioned that you were using the tempo operator and it worked really well. So I thought that was a cool random call out for the operator, that it had made their life really easy deploying tempo. So very good work. I still haven't used it, but I'm sure it's fantastic. Cool. Finally, we're just flying through these. I don't know if this is going to be a particularly long one. This quarter. So we did some quarterly planning. Our quarters, I think, are a bit offset by a month for normal human people quarters. But we talked about the work we want to do this quarter, and I thought I'd pass it along to this group here, of course. Performance is a big focus this quarter, as well as some extensions to the metrics generator, which we've kind of teased, and I'll have a kind of short demo here today on, which is a way to do these dynamic grouping and dynamic percentiles on your spans, which is really cool. Performance-wise, we're going to cut a vParquet 3, and what this is going to do is, and I think people have even been asking for this in this call. What's up?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
You want to do it? Mario? Thanks, Mario.
Still a few minutes of the show.
It's the Mario show now. Do it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So vParquet 3. This is still in the design phase, so there are still too many specifics. But essentially, right now, with Parquet, we need a schema that predefines what data is going to be, how data is going to be laid out. So we have a combination of dedicated columns and then an array of key values. So some dedicated columns are straightforward, which are intrinsic, like name and so on. And then we have a set of dedicated columns of attributes that we initially deemed more important than others, basically because we think are the most common, that are going to be searched the most, like pasta, name, space. But everything else is sent to an array of key values. So anytime you need to search by a specific attribute that is not part of these dedicated columns, you're going to go through the entire array searching for that attribute, which it's way slower than just pulling one column. So what we want to do essentially is make this dynamic. And what we're now designing is how dynamic and how that is going to work. Because in the end, we're gonna still need to have a schema for writing and reading. So most likely, the dynamic part is gonna be configured per tenant based on the different usage patterns of the different users. But yeah, I think as soon as we'll have more concrete news and a design, we plan on sharing this in the design docs or design proposals, I think they're called, in Tempo. The same with it for Parquet, initially TraceQL, the metric generator, so to have an open discussion. Yeah, right now I think Adrian and myself, we're leading the effort. But yeah, we hope to have this as an open discussion. So any ideas will be welcome, and we'll appreciate any discussion that around the topic. Yeah.
Are you all posting a design proposal?
Yes, that's our intention.
Okay. Did you mention that? I just totally missed it. Maybe. No. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
I was saying, did you mention it and we totally missed it, and I just totally missed it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we intend on publishing a design proposal.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. I think we found even that pulling out big attributes is as effective, if not more effective, than pulling out the ones you query on. So a lot of people's blocks, we found they often have giant tags like SQL queries or things just shoved into tags, and pulling those out massively reduces the length of that attributes column and improves the ability to sorry, I'm doing like 3 things. Improves the ability to get your searches done quickly across all attributes. You can not only pull out the ones you want to query on, you can pull out the ones that just make the column really big. Yes. And I think I asked Adrian to do this. I don't know if it's on your radar too, Mario, but have a CLI command that will take a block and give us a decent idea of what's kind of like clogging that attributes column. So you can get like a printout and make some choices, help you do this configuration.
Yes. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting find. Just by reducing the length of the attributes column, even if you don't query by the newly dedicated columns, it's just a massive improvement in speed. And yes, so far we have analysis like ad hoc analysis of some like simple data blocks. And yeah, we're trying to figure out how we can, the best way of presenting data about how traces, like how traces look like which are the top column, top attributes. So we can better suggest users which attributes to promote. Because as you say, they do not necessarily need to be the ones you're searching by, but just most likely a combination of a few you're very interested, like you're very frequently searching by, and just the biggest ones.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're excited for that. We think it's going to make massive performance impact on very large clients for us. Very large, like our own clusters internally, are not hitting the speeds we want for search, and we think this is going to be a big move in the right direction. And we think some of the advanced operators, which I assume are people on this call, will definitely be able to make use of it as well. Cool. Other news in performance, we have already merged, and Grafana is currently working on and I'll do a quick demo of this real fast here, a streaming endpoint. So there's no nice Grafana UI, but can you even read that? Is that readable?
A little larger.
I don't even know how to increase my font size, actually.
It's probably Control-Shift+.
I should have done that before this call because I don't know how to increase the font size in my terminal. One day I'll learn that. Oh, look at this. Yeah.
Or
Okay.
Command plus, maybe.
I got it. Maybe it's Command plus. Thank you all. Anyways, so the streaming endpoint will connect over gRPC. It's a single directional streaming RPC call. You pass your query and you get back a series of updates over the course of the time. So that was a pretty easy query because it was empty and it just returned a bunch of things, right? But we can do something a bit more interesting. Here, let's do this. Like a resource. Let's do something that might take a little bit longer to service. Resource.service name equals tempo query front end and duration greater than 5 seconds. Let's see if we can find something there.
There is a typo on service.
Oh, there is. Well, we won't find anything, but you can still see like across the course of the streaming or as it's being streamed back, we can see how many jobs are done, how many are total. So we can nicely, hopefully draw like a progress bar or give some good indication about, you know, how far along the query is. And I think that'll be really important for understanding if you have written yourself a very heavy query that's going to take forever, or you wrote yourself a nice easy query. So you have an immediate understanding of how long it's going to take. And hopefully this will actually return something. And over the course of the search, maybe, no? Oh, there you go. So you can get intermediate results kind of as the search is going along. So Grafana can display them as soon as they're hit instead of after, you know, 20 seconds or 30 seconds or something like that. So for bigger queries, you're going to, like, again, immediately have good instincts on how long the thing you wrote is going to take. And then for and then you'll also be getting these temporaries or these like intermediate results back. So you can be like clicking on trace IDs, exploring traces, having an understanding of what's occurring, you know, before the full timeout awaits. And so this isn't necessarily going to improve tempo performance, but it's definitely going to improve the experience using tempo in a very powerful way, I think. So larger queries are more obvious, and you get your results even faster, even if the query took the same amount of time it took before. So a lot of excitement about that here. I think that's going to be a great improvement to tempo and how we interact with it. And then the final thing is these updates to the metrics generator. So the metrics generator is generates the Prometheus metrics, right? But they're these like canned pre-configured metrics. And the thing that we've been working on recently for the past month or so is an API endpoint to dynamically slice and dice your spans to get histograms based on, you know, or sorry, quantiles of your different your span durations. Does that make sense, or am I just totally making things up? So anyways, I'm going to query this API metrics endpoint. I'm going to pass a trace QL query, and then I'm going to tell it what to group by. So I want to group by service name, and I want to take everything. This is an empty query, right? And it's going to give me back, hopefully, right? It's going to say how many spans were counted up, and it's going to give me back all of the different buckets for a histogram. And it did the grouping on service name, which is Mythical Server is the one it found. I'm using a repo that we use internally for fake data, basically called Intro to MLT. But anyways, so this endpoint I can do different kinds of queries on, and I can group by whatever I want. Instead of going for a full, like, complete parsable PromQL trace QL mix, because that would have been a whole lot more work, we wanted to do this first because we thought it would be a quick move towards dynamic metrics from traces, generate a ton of value without having to go through the full query language, PromQL trace QL mashup kind of thing. And Grafana will be building a UI on top of this as well. So you should be able to do like select your service name, select your namespaces, select your clusters, and immediately get back your kind of like histogram values. So, this is kind of boring because there's only one resource service name. So we can do like span.http target maybe. And we can see now we're broken down by target. So we see Owlbear. These are all names that Head Simons came up with. Owlbear, Manicore, Illithid, Beholder. We can kind of look through. We even see metrics, maybe something we don't care about. And we see things maybe we do care about. But of course, since I'm writing TraceQL and it's responsive, I can just say span.http.target does not equal /metrics. And I'm going to only now select certain spans, and I get back a different set of buckets, the ones I'm more interested in. So I excluded my metrics. I have my things down again, don't I? Let's do that bigger. So I'm writing TraceQL. I am then able to do these like group bys. I can specify any attribute in my spans or my resource, and I can quickly generate my histograms here. So this is another one we are super interested in or super excited about, in particular kind of the Grafana UI integration, because this has made, certainly you all could probably write some kind of clever UI on top of this, but we want to, provide that as well in open source Grafana. So we're excited about that as well. So this should be pretty slick. And that's roughly what I got today to talk about. So we got dynamic metrics coming up. We have 2 big performance improvements that we're excited about. Tempo operator, and yeah, don't be on 2.10, be on 2.11, please, for your poor user's sanity. Other than that, I don't know. How are we doing here? Anybody have questions or thoughts from the community? It looks like we do have some people excited about the metrics. I am too, quite a bit. I think that'll be a game-changing feature for Tempo. Generally, in open source tracing or in tracing, generally I've felt like there's a lot of these proprietary products, vendor lock-in products that do a lot of nice things with traces, but there's not been a really solid open source alternative to do some of this. And I'm excited that Tempo is growing into this space with the query language as well as these dynamic metrics. I think we are providing a really top-tier open source database now. So yeah, that's really good. Cool. Yeah, any questions, thoughts, concerns? If not, I'm roughly done here. Yeah, I don't know. Cool. All right. Well, you all have an excellent day. And we'll see you in about a month. The GrafanaCon's coming up, so expect some things at GrafanaCon. And we'll definitely have a Tempo session, so try to show up for that. And we may or may not have a community call. We might cancel it depending on the conflict with GrafanaCon. We'll see. But we'll communicate that. So everyone take care, and I will see you when I see you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.